everybody, happy Wednesday evening live tutorial stream. Hope everyone is doing well wherever you are out there on the internet today. We had a great day here at the Beading Dreams. It was actually a lovely day in Dallas for part of the day, and now it's getting cold and gray and gloomy, and it's going to be cold and windy for the next couple of days, so not so much looking forward to that, but once again, we could be in Canada, so you know, small mercies. I'm not complaining about the lack of Canadian weather here in Dallas. So hope everyone's doing great. Hi Megan, Ace, Lori, Amy, and everyone else who's on. Thanks for joining us for the kickoff of our streaming week with this project, our Moroccan hoop earrings. This is a really fun, of course you are. Heather's happy for the cold. She can have all of it. If only I could like give her my portion of the cold as well, and I could. Hey Diane! If only I could give Heather my portion of the cold and I could, you know, revel in 70-degree temperatures, that'd be awesome. Hi Janie J! But anyway, so yeah, Moroccan hoop earrings is what we're doing tonight. This is one of my favorite super simple projects, and I love it because it doesn't look as simple as it is, but it's really a very, very easy earring. It's a really great way to feature one awesome bead. And you don't have to make it this shape. You can, I'm going to show you how to make this shape tonight, but you can really apply this technique to any shape that you might happen to want to create in an earring like this. So you could do a hoop, you could do a big oval, you could do a square, you could do a triangle, you know, pick a shape, any shape. You can literally do any shape with this. So for this evening's tutorial, you are going to need +1 degree Fahrenheit.
Ooh,
that's so balmy, Lori. It's plus. Not a fan. Right here. No, add like another, you know, add another 50 degrees onto that, maybe 60, and then I would be a happy girl. +1 degree Fahrenheit. No thank you. Hard pass. So, what are you going to need for this evening's tutorial? You're going to need wire. You're going to need some thicker wire. Now my actual sample hoops are made of 16 gauge wire. However, we're fresh out of 16 gauge wire here at Beading Dreams. We have none. We have like 3 inches, which is fine if I only wanted to do one earring, but I do tend to make them in pairs. So I'm going to use 14 gauge wire instead. So 14 or 16 gauge wire will work for this project. And you're going to need about about 7 inches of wire, whichever gauge you need, of the whichever gauge you choose of the 14 or the 16. So 7 inches of 14 or 16 gauge wire. You're going to need about 3 inches of 20 gauge wire. That's going to be for your actual portion of the earring that goes through your ear, and you're going to need about 6 inches of 26 gauge wire to wrap your teardrops or whatever beads you've chosen onto your hoops. You are of course going to need a couple of top drilled drops. I'm going to be using these really pretty chevron cut smoky quartz, and as far as supplies goes, that's literally all you need. As far as tools go, you're going to need your basic wire wrapping set. That is going to be your round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, and a good wire cutter. And then you are also going to need a chasing hammer. If you don't have a chasing hammer, a household hammer is perfectly sufficient. What's special about a chasing hammer is it is a convex hammer, meaning that the head of the hammer is somewhat, you know, bumped out in the middle. That way you can actually hit your wire with the head of your hammer and not get a tool mark from the outside. Hi Cindy! Oh, and Megan, we actually had a question, sorry, backing up, but Megan had a question as to where our shenanigans mugs came from. The answer is they were a gift from Cindy Starr, who's over on the light side of the force currently, who's awesome. But Cindy, if you would be up for sharing a link for where you actually got them, I think Megan might be interested in acquiring some shenanigans for herself.
I think Cindy got them in an actual store.
What?
Yeah.
People do that?
Yep.
Are you sure?
I've heard.
Well, you should tell all the people who didn't come and buy things today in this actual store that that's still something that people do.
It's a thing, yeah.
It's a thing. It's a thing that people still do, apparently.
Well, they keep hiring us for all of the birthday parties.
That is true. So many birthday parties. It's like, according to parents of school-aged children, the pandemic never happened.
It's
or
over.
is over.
It's
done. Whatever. We can have 25 kids for a birthday party and everything is just fine. So yeah, that's a thing that keeps happening to us. But anyway, it's nice. The money is much needed, so, you know, we're going ahead with it. But, you know, there's the part of me that's like, yes, take the money. Need the money. And then there's the other part of me that's like, why are you doing this? It's still a pandemic. And Cindy said that Megan, she got them at Home Goods. So, you may be able to find them on the interwebs, though. Sorry, I grabbed my little calm down bottle and I felt the need to shake it. So, so yeah, chasing hammer, if you don't have a chasing hammer, household hammer will work just fine. And then hammering surface your bench block or bench block equivalent. So I'm going to start by taking my 14 gauge wire and I'm going to cut 2 pieces of my 14 gauge wire, 1 for each earring, and I'm going to cut each piece 3.5 inches long. Now, of course, you can vary this depending on how big ass you want your earrings to be. If you want really big ass earrings, cut yourself a longer piece of wire. If you don't want such large earrings, cut yourself a shorter piece of wire to make something approximately the same size as my sample here. I'm going to do 3.5 inches of wire, and again, I'm going to do that times 2 because 2 earrings. Hi, Corvus. How's everything where you are? Probably warmer than where we are, and probably warmer than where Lori is. Have you succeeded in trapping Jason Momoa and locking him in your basement yet? Inquiring minds want to know. He's not locking anything. Corvus is locking him in her basement. Because he's single now.
Okay.
So, got my 2 3.5 inch pieces of wire. And I'm gonna, well, you know, I mean, don't always believe everything that you hear, or something. Alright, so I'm gonna take my 2 3.5 inch pieces of wire and I'm gonna measure and mark the middle. So the middle of 3.5 is 1 3/4. Yes, so I'm going to measure and mark the middle of each wire. That's true. It's only illegal if you're caught.
That's true, yes.
You're talking about kidnapping again?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Okay.
I mean, we're not implicating anyone who watches our stream in any kidnappings that may or may not have occurred. Just saying. Okay, now I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers. So again, I'm going to teach you how to make this particular shape this evening, but you don't have to feel limited to this particular shape. You could do it, Corvus. I have faith in you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do any shape. Also, there is a tool that I forgot to tell you needed, which is going to be a dowel, or in my case, my trusty little ring stick. So, fair.
But, you know.
Yeah, I will say, and this is, I don't quite know where this psychosis came from. I blame The Walking Dead for sure, but I do have a tendency to look at, like, all of my spaces in terms of how secure they would be if zombies were coming to get me. That's not healthy, is it? I should talk about that with my therapist, shouldn't I?
I mean, as long as you're safe, I think you're good. But if you're unsafe and worrying about it actively, then yes, you should talk about it.
No, you know what safe is going to be really, or what space is going to be really terrible and unsafe during the zombie apocalypse?
Beading dreams.
Actually, that's not what I was thinking. My condo is what I was thinking.
Also that.
Because there's really no good way to barricade yourself in there.
But beading dreams would also be terrible.
We could barricade ourselves in the back room.
What? How are we closing the door that's a curtain?
Debris.
Debris.
That's a beaded curtain.
I'm telling you, furniture. We are going to pile furniture in front of the door.
And we'll beam them with the newly refurbished fire extinguisher.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, no, I wasn't thinking about defense against the zombies. I was just thinking about hiding from them.
Well, they still might find us, because it's a really... Depends on what kind of zombies they are.
That's true. It does.
If they're not very smart.
It depends on what zombie fandom you're ascribing to here.
If they're slow and dumb, we're good.
But I still think we could. I think
Zombies that are fast and smart.
World War Z.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Oh, Corvus is definitely.
Not
Oh my
wrong.
gosh! Really, Diane? That's insane. And Corvus, that's not cheerful. I'm going back to making jewelry, and I'm going to stop talking about zombies, but I still think at Beading Dreams we could barricade ourselves in the back room and have a decent chance of survival.
I mean, if Allison's here when the zombies come, I feel safe. But if she's not,
Wait, why am I the safety factor?
because you're awesome at a lot more things than I am.
I don't think I'm awesome at fighting zombies.
You know where the tools are.
You know where the tools are?
I don't know where all the tools are. I know where the jewelry tools are, but I know where the
Okay.
hammers live, at least.
The hammers and the torches are on your side of the streaming area.
That's true.
They're right by you. So take all the canisters of compressed gas and throw them in the back room with us. The booze is already back there, so we could make Molotov cocktails
Oh my
to throw at the
gosh.
zombies.
I'm
Um,
texting right now.
We're gonna barricade ourselves with furniture. I mean, I feel like this is a solid plan.
I'm for it. And when we don't have to throw Molotov cocktails, I think we should use the denatured alcohol first for that, actually.
That's fair.
Because more booze for...
More booze for us. Yes, exactly. Okay, so we have a solid. By the way, hi Tallyfet. I promise I am actually teaching a project in addition to talking about zombies. Just. And
It's just important information.
and I started
plan.
this too. I totally started this particular digression, so I have no one to blame but myself. So what I've done, alright, this is our project for anybody who is just joining us. What I've done is I've cut two 3.5-inch pieces of my thicker wire, which in this case is 14 gauge. The sample is 16 gauge, but again, we are fresh out of 16 gauge at Beading Dreams, so I've got 14 gauge here. I've measured and I've marked the center. Now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, grab right next to my center marking, and just bend that wire up to make a V shape. And ideally, if you grabbed in the right place, you should have your bend right on your mark. That's why you grab next to your mark, because if you grab on your mark, then your bend is going to be next to your mark, which is not what you want. So grab next to your mark and then bend against your pliers. Pardon?
I said bend and snap, sorry.
Bend and snap. No, just bend, no snap. But you can see it takes a solid amount of pressure on that wire to actually make it move. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our chain nose pliers, and we're going to compress this bend. So I'm just going to take my pliers, and I may need to bring this, I feel like if I don't bring this a little closer together, I'm going to regret this because it's going to slip and it's going to pinch me. You do not want to be pinched. There.
I pinch.
Squeeze it together. Okay, I really am sad that the Heather cam wasn't on, because Heather totally just made like crabby claws over the monitor at me, and it was hilarious. All right, so pinch together like so, and then do the same on your other piece. I feel like if we're taking over the world with a zombie army, that possibly the police won't be such a factor. Just saying. Alright, then I'm going to take my wires and I'm going to... Got it. I'm going to take my wires and I'm going to bend them back out. So what I've created is I've created this really kind of sharp little dip in the bottom. And ideally we want these to match, which currently they do not. That's better. Okay, so now we've got two pieces of wire with these little pointy bends in the bottom. Now we're going to find our dowel or ring stick, ring mandrel, whatever you have that is cylindrical. Thank you, Ace. It's still the bead mat that I grabbed on the fly on Saturday, but I decided it worked well. It is working well. So now I'm going to take my ring stick and I'm going to sort of nestle it right next to that point that I made, and I'm just going to bring my wires around like so. So now I've created, so this is you know, the prototype of this shape right here. Repeat. The only problem is I have this, my camera is way too close right now to my work surface, so it's like there's not enough room to actually get my hands under there and show y'all what I'm doing. So sorry for that. But take your wire around your ring stick and I'm gonna cross it. I'm not gonna cross it so that I make a full circle, but I want to cross it so that I make kind of a little point. So I've got sort of a marquee shape going on. Thanks, Diane. And there we go. Okay, so what I have now look kind of like a pair of lemons. I could have called them lemon drop earrings. I hate trying to come up with class names on the fly. It's so hard. And I feel like I can never come up with clever ones.
You should send me the photos and I can help. That is something I can do.
I know, but I'm usually doing it at the last minute is the problem.
I can sometimes be available at the last minute.
Alright, so I've got two shapes now that look kind of like lemons. Now I need to even up the tops because, okay, on this one I did a fairly decent job of getting it centered. On this one, so not centered. So what I need to do is I need to even up all of these wires to the length of whichever one is shortest, which is going to be this one right here. So I'm going to need to trim everything off so that it is the same length as that shortest wire. Because unfortunately, no matter how kindly you talk to your wires, no matter how much you sprinkle them with water and ply them with food, oh, Corvus. Gonna give that one a minute to rest. Okay, and then I'm gonna make my two loops on the top here. So the thing to remember when you're making these loops is they don't go outward in the same plane as the shape. They're gonna come forward 90 degrees rotated to the plane of the shape. That's what's going to allow our ear wire to function. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these top pieces and I'm going to bend them outwards. And I may wind up shortening them up a little bit. I haven't quite decided yet. I'm going to start by bending them. Just grab them, bend them outwards. Okay, so you can kind of see that's the start of our little Moroccan shape there. Do the same with your other lemon. I'm going to continue to call them lemons because it's before 9. You all can call them whatever you want to in the chat.
They look like lemons. I like lemons.
Okay, and I think I'm going to leave them this length. But since, first of all, I don't think I did a great job of evening these out, 'cause one looks noticeably longer. Okay, so then I'm going to take my, right now, Megan, from bottom to top, they are 1.5 inches. So from here to here is 1.5 inches. So now I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to take these ends, I'm going to bend them forward to make a loop. So that means I'm going to grab the end with my round nose pliers. I'm not going to make a very large loop, so I'm going to grab fairly close to the tip of my pliers. I'm going to brace with my finger and I'm just going to roll this forward like so, and do the same with the other side. Now, if you have any kind of issues with hand strength or anything like that, do not pick 14 gauge wire, okay? Pick 16 gauge wire, because even I am finding that the 14 gauge wire is definitely a bit of a pain in the gajwanska to bend. And then you can take your little loops that you made and just kick them out to either side. And that is your little kind of Moroccan fresco shape. Heather making Corvus snort for the win. And it's not even the sales stream yet. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing on our other earring. And again, remember, I'm rolling them forward or backwards. It doesn't really matter, but the most important thing here is they're getting rolled, turned, curved, whatever you want to call it, perpendicular to the plane of our earring shape. And don't forget to brace, okay? When you're working with heavy gauge wire, it's really important that you have something to brace against. In this instance, as usual, it's my thumb. And then I'm going to take these somewhat wonky looking loops that I made, I'm going to straighten them up, and then I'm just going to kick them outwards like so. We want our shapes to look fairly similar, which they do. Now it's time to hammer. So I'm going to take my hammer and my bench block. My bench block is going to go on my work surface. My earring pieces are going to go one at a time on my bench block. Wow. I'm going to hammer this entire piece of metal except for the loops, and I'm of course going to do everything I can to avoid hitting my fingers. It's going to get a little loud here on the Beading Dream stream, so take out your earphones, mute me if you have to. Here I go, hammering in 3, 2, 1. Alright, one more to go. Okay, and that's it for the pounding for this evening's stream. So hammering does 2 things. Number 1, hammering is going to help lock your shape in place. It's going to make it a lot sturdier so that when you're wearing your earrings, you don't have to worry about them bending out of shape. Number 2, I just like the way it looks. It looks prettier. I think it gives it a little bit more sparkle and just makes it kind of look a little bit more professional, the hammering, but it's up to you. Could you get away without hammering these? Of course you could. This Corvus is a chasing hammer. Chasing hammer is a special hammer for hammering metal. Chasing hammers, the head is convex, meaning that the head of the hammer kind of pokes out in the middle, and the reason for that is so that you can hit the metal with the edge of your, with the head of your hammer, with the middle of the head of your hammer, and you don't get a tool mark from the edge of your hammer on your metal. If you don't have a chasing hammer, however, just a regular ball peen or household hammer will work just as well. So now it's time to make our ear wires. So that's going to be done with 20 gauge round wire. And half hard or dead soft, either one's going to work for this. And you're going to cut 1.5 inches times 2 pieces. So 2 1.5 inch pieces of 20 gauge wire. And that's going to be, again, for my ear wire, the part that actually is going to go through my ear. And I'm going to start with my round nose pliers, and just on the end of each of my pieces of my 20 gauge wire, I'm just going to take and I'm going to curl up a moderately sized loop. Okay, so it doesn't need to be giant, but it shouldn't be tiny either. So on my pliers, I'm about, you know, a 1/4 of an inch down from the end, approximately. There we go. Now we can go back to our trusty ring stick. If you don't have a ring stick and you were using a large dowel for the last part of this project, you can grab yourself a marker or something that's a little bit smaller in diameter. And we're just going to take our ear wires and just bend them over our round object to create a shape like so. Ta-da! We want to make sure that the edge of this ear wire is comfortable to go through our ear, okay? Anybody who's looking at this on the screen is probably going, that does not look like my definition of comfortable in my ear. That, in fact, looks stabby and awful. So this is where you can employ a file, sandpaper, an emery board, whatever you happen to have on hand, to just sort of blunt that down. So what you want to do is you just want to kind of blunt it, round it, get rid of all of the edges and the corners as much as you can. And your goal here is that you should be able to just drag your finger across it, and it shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't feel scratchy. At that point, you can be pretty sure that you're going to be safe putting that in your ear. All right, so I'm going to do the same with this other one. Okay, and then the last thing that I like to do, and that's actually important in this type of ear wire, is you need to make a little spot that's going to hook into the other side of your earring. So I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers, grab and just tilt up about the last 1/8 of an inch or so of the end of my ear wire. And you can adjust that depending on what's comfortable for you, but you don't want to make it too short or your ear wires aren't, or your earrings aren't going to stay in your ear. Okay, so we've got earrings, ear wires. Alright, last thing I'm going to need is beads, and then we're going to put everything together. So the beads are going to get wrapped with a regular basic Chain of Tears top drilled wire wrap. So if you've watched any of our Chain of Tears tutorials, this is not going to be new information for you. If you haven't watched any of our Chain of Tears tutorials and you are just burning with desire to know how to wire wrap a teardrop, just go onto our history on Facebook or our history on Twitch. Look for any tutorial that's called Chain of Tears, anything, earrings, necklace, whatever. That's going to be a really in-depth tutorial on how to wire wrap top drilled teardrops. And by top drilled, for me, that means that they are, it's a teardrop shaped bead that's drilled right across the point. Some people call these side drilled. It's really just a question of how you're thinking of it, whether it's the direction of the drill or the position of the drilling. But either way, the way you wrap them is like this. You're going to take some 26 or 28 gauge wire. You need a fairly thin wire for this because these babies are really fragile right here at the point where they're drilled, so you don't want to use too heavy of a wire because you risk popping the tops off of your beads, and trust me, that is super annoying because once you've done that, your bead is no longer useful. it's got no hole. It is officially like you can glue a cap on it. That's about it. So you're going to put your wire through your bead. You're going to have a short side that's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches long, and then all the rest of your wire on the other side. You're going to take your wires and you're going to bend them against the hole of the bead to make a triangle. You want the point of that triangle to be directly above the point of the bead, like so. Grab your chain nose pliers. Grip the longer of those 2 wires directly above the point where the 2 wires cross and bend it straight up. So now what I've done is I've aligned that wire with the central axis of my bead. Now I'm going to wrap the short wire around the long wire 1.5 times. My goal here is to make tight wraps that are very close together. So I started at this little crossing point here. I made 1.5 wraps. They're very tight to my core wire, and they're not smashed, but they're stacked is the word I'm looking for, thank you. Stacked right on top of each other. And I'm going to trim. My wire off as close as I possibly can to the coils, and then use my chain nose pliers to squish my little pokey stabby end in like so. Now I need to make so now I've made bead on a stick. I've essentially made a head pin with a bead at the end of it. Now I need to make a basic wire wrap loop from which my bead is going to hang. So take my round nose pliers, I'm going to place them so that they're touching the top of the wrap that I just made. Now I'm going to take my fingers, I'm going to push my wire away from me over my pliers to make a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to loosen my pliers, rotate them 1/8 of a turn, and grab again. So what I've done now is I've grabbed right on that little corner that I just made. I'm going to pull that wire back up over the top towards me and down. See how I'm starting to form that wire around my pliers to make a circle? Loosen your pliers, rotate 1/2 a turn, grab again, and then push that wire underneath your pliers and away from you to make our lady with a scarf. So our lady with a scarf is a completed loop with the exception of only the wrapping. Now, I'm just going to thread my lady with a scarf onto my little earring component that I made, pop it into that peak at the bottom, that's where it's going to hang. And then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, I'm going to hold across my loop, and I'm probably going to wind up holding my earring component along with that loop, and that's totally fine. The main point is holding the loop, but you know, whatever else you got to hold in there is also good. Yay! You're welcome, Corvus. And then I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to start at the base of that loop, and I'm going to wrap down until I meet this end of wire that you can see right there. So that's probably going to be more than 1.5 wraps, which is fine. In this case it was 4. Alright, 4 wraps, and then I'm going to trim that off. So trim it off, and then if you do this right, when you press it down, it should ideally butt right up against the wire end that's already there, creating a relatively seamless finish. It's not a perfectly seamless finish, but again, once you know, as long as you don't go pointing it out to people, you're gonna be fine. And then if you find that your bead is getting a little bound up in there, like mine is, you can always do just a wee bit of adjusting to your shape and pull it out just a bit to give your bead a little bit more freedom to move in there. You also could, if you wanted, do a slightly bigger loop than I did, but it appears to be, there we go. It's hanging nice and freely now, or mostly freely. Okay, so now I'm going to continue on with my second one. 26 gauge wire through the hole in the bead, like so. Bend up against the hole in the bead. To make your triangle, you want the point of the triangle to be directly above the point of the bead. Grab with your chain nose directly above the point where those 2 wires cross, bend up. And Wrap around nice and tightly 1.5 times, starting at that crossing point, and then the second wrap goes above the first. I had a whole lesson with a client the other day where she was trying to wrap down from that crossing point, and that obviously doesn't work because there's no place to go. So on your first wrap, you're wrapping upwards. On the one we're about to do, you'll be wrapping downwards. We're going to go ahead and trim. Press down. Again, no pokey stabbies, please. Haha, got it. Alright, so once again, I made bead on a stick. Now we're going to do our basic wire wrap loop. That starts with our round nose pliers holding, so they're touching the top of that wrap. We're going to go away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate again, underneath. This makes our lady with a scarf. Grab my other component, thread that lady with scarf on, and pop it into that little receptacle that I have made. Hold across your loop, and then wrap down until you meet the end of the wire that's already there. There you go. Trim. Press your end down, and again, if you did it right, you should have a relatively seamless finish. Alright, and there is earring number 2. So now I've got 2 earring pieces ready to go. All they need is their ear wires. Attaching the ear wires, extremely simple. Just take the loop that you made, pull it open. Notice I pulled it open by twisting it. I didn't open it out flat. Attach that onto, make a big enough loop or opening that your ear wire can actually go, or your earring can go on it. Attach that onto your earring component that you've made, and then make sure you close it up completely. Okay, this is just as important on this earring as anything else. You want to make sure you can't see any light between those 2 wires. And then that other end, oh dear. That other end will snap right in there. Sorry, I pushed that a little too hard and I bent it. Now, if you're concerned about that, if you want to give this a little bit more kind of spring tension and sturdiness, we can hammer these. And I think I'm going to take a second and do just that. Since this is actually going through your ear, don't hammer it out too flat or it's going to be uncomfortable. But this will just give your ear wire a little bit more resilience in its shape. And then I'm going to repeat for my other earring. Again, open your loop by twisting. Drop that onto your earring component and then close it up. This end goes into this receptacle here. And again, I think I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to hammer it a bit to just give it a little bit more springiness. Sometimes you also have to play a bit with the width. That's better. With the width of this here. So don't forget, you can pull it farther apart. You can squeeze it closer together depending on how long you've made your earring wires. But for now, ta-da! Those are our Moroccan hoop earrings. We did it! Yay! Seriously though, thank y'all so much for hanging out with the start of our streaming. So Lori asked, do we want to make sure the earrings both have loops facing in towards you when you place the ear wires? I actually personally, I view, so I actually did these, I did them right. No, I did them wrong. That's a really good question. That's a finer technical question, but Lori brings up something that I actually did not do correctly. on these earrings. So I'm going to talk about that for a minute, and then I'll let everyone go get ready for the sale. But in my mind, this where your loops are curling back, this is the back of your earring. So if you think about this part is the part that's going to go through your ear. So on your right ear, you want it to be facing this way, but on your left ear, in order to have that back be towards your neck where no one's going to see it, I actually put this one on backwards. You'd actually have to put this earring in from the back to the front to make that work. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch that around. Now, once again, that's one of those finer technical points that no one would probably notice if you didn't point it out to them, but it is a good thing to address. So I'm just going to switch that from this one onto this one, like so. So now when I hold them as if they were in my ears on opposite sides of my head, with the, you know, with the pointy bit having gone in my ear first and then clipping in, the back of my earring, the part where this loop comes around, is in the position where it would be facing my neck on either side and would not be facing outwards in the front of my earring. So that's a really good point, Lori. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So now we have an actual, correct, finished pair of our Moroccan hoop earrings. So thank y'all so much for hanging out with us on the Beading Dreams Wednesday night stream. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and break the news to you all now. We will have a tutorial tomorrow at noon, but I'm canceling tomorrow evening's tutorial. Our Torch Thursday tomorrow is canceled. There's a really good reason for this. It's a secret, so I'm not going to be able to tell you guys why, but I promise in a couple of weeks you'll be very, very happy that I did what I'm doing tomorrow night. So I will be on tomorrow at noon with this. I didn't load it up. Nope, that's totally not the project. With our crystal smile necklace, which is that little necklace with the chain and the little bit of crystals in the middle. Mine was diamonds that I was wearing on stream the other night that everyone was excited about and wanted me to do. So tomorrow's noon tutorial is going to be crystal smile necklace, and that will be happening as planned, but the Torch Thursday 6 p.m. stream is not happening tomorrow night. I will post that tomorrow on all of the social medias, and I'll post it on Discord. I am keeping secrets for this, but I promise these secrets are fun. This is a good secret. I can't tell y'all now, but in a couple...
Good secret. I vouch for it.
Heather vouches for it being a good secret, and in a few weeks, you guys are going to be very happy that I abandoned you for one evening. So you know, exciting things upcoming on the Beading Dreams stream. Speaking of exciting things upcoming, we have got new freshwater pearl and crystal strands on this evening's live sales stream. So we've got rando strandos of freshwater pearls, rando strandos of faux pearls, and we've got crystal strands. Those are all going to be on this evening's live sales stream, which starts in just about half an hour. So between 7:30 and 7:45 tonight is going to be our live sales stream. So, woo! It's not the sales stream yet, so I'm drinking caffeine. So everyone, if you're going to join us for the sale, that's awesome. Don't forget to grab yourself a cocktail, grab yourself some hydration, grab a snack, get comfy, get cozy. Well, Heather's already getting cool weather, so I don't think that's a good enough bribe. I'm pretty sure Heather takes bribes in the form of baked goods and liquor and chocolate, beads. She does take bribes in the form of beads as well. So these are all, you know, if you're looking to try and bribe the Heather, these are all valid paths to potentially getting the information out of her. Potentially. But anyway, so I'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, with another tutorial tomorrow at noon with the crystal smile necklace. And of course, I'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, in about half an hour with a live merchandise sale. So I'm going to attempt to drink some caffeine and stop yawning, and I'll see y'all back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, in 30 minutes.